Hey, welcome to today's episode. It's week number 5 of my life in Cardiff, and today's episode will be special, to be honest. By the way, before diving in and before starting, I wanted to tell you that this episode is recorded, as you may know. You can find the video version on my YouTube channel. You just have to type my name in the search bar and you should probably find it, I think. So yeah, today's episode will be special. I will go in deeper subjects today. It will be a serious episode. Right now I have 2 stories written, so it might be a smaller episode than usual, but I promise a really interesting one. Let's dive in. So, I lied. I didn't tell you the story I had to tell you. In the 3rd episode of this podcast, I was about to tell you something, but I got scared of what people would think about me, scared of how people would react. And I don't want this podcast to be a place where I'm scared of anything. So today I will tell you the real story, but before telling you the real story, I want to tell you how I realized that and how I decided to tell you the story anyway. So as you know, I've stopped listening to music 2-3 weeks ago or something like that. And since then, I listen a lot, to a podcast called The Diary of a CEO, which was host Stephen Bartlett, an English entrepreneur, interviews people about their field of expertise. So it can be a CIA agent, it can be someone just a public speaker, it can be anything. So this is what he's doing now, but at the beginning of his podcast, he wasn't doing that. He was just talking about what he had written in his diary. So the name, The Diary of a CEO. Because at the time, he was CEO of Social Chain, a media company, something like that. And so he was like being really honest and vulnerable about what he was doing in his life. He was talking a lot about his relationships and things like that. It was really, really deep and vulnerable. And I think it went like on the top 5 podcasts in the first 10 episodes in the UK, which is a big thing because there were, even at the time, it was in 2017 when it started. And even at the time there were a lot of podcasts. So yeah. It was quite a thing. And so I've been listening to his first episode, and that are really the best. And they created this desire to write in my diary too. So I've been writing in a little notebook from them. And one of my last entry from May the 7th, to be honest, last Wednesday, I wrote, open the quotes, because I've been reading what I wrote, so I wrote in italic, open the quote. So yeah, let me read it. I really want to build a personal brand, but I don't know how to differentiate myself. I want to hustle, but it's not me. I want to show that it's important to be balanced, but everyone's seeing that, so I won't differentiate myself. I want to be myself, but I don't really know how. I feel like I'm lying to myself, or at least I'm hiding things, because I don't know how people will react, what they will think about me. And I know it's not good, but I don't know how to train that, like, honesty, that bluntness. I'm afraid I will just make people feel sad and feel bad. So I think my podcast is one of the best places I can train. I can train that because I'm not really talking to someone, I'm talking to myself. And so here I am, coming back. One of the time I lied, doing something I wouldn't have done a week ago. But yeah, this podcast will probably turn out after my trip in Cardiff, my life in Cardiff, as a podcast where I will just like be fully honest and just give like insight of my life and things like this, a bit like Stephen Bartlett did at the beginning of his podcast, The Diary of a CEO. And so there is a lot to say about this inside of my diary. Let's cut it and see it one by one. The first thing is I want to build a personal brand. If you don't know what is a personal brand, I like to define it as what people think and say about you when you're not in the room. So imagine 5 or 10 of you. Imagine what your best friend is going to a party where you're not, and at the moment you become a subject. What your friend will tell about you is your personal brand. Obviously, because he is your best friend, he will probably say things that are good, but it might also be someone that you don't really know or someone that you really don't like, and they don't like you either, and like what they say will be bad. And like your personal brand, your whole personal brand is like what people say when you're not in that room. And more generally than that, a personal brand online is like all the YouTube videos and things like that. This is your personal brand because people can learn and discover who you are online, and so get an opinion and then talk about it to their friends. And this is how you build a personal brand. Okay? But I won't go deeper into the subject. I want to build a personal brand because this is linked to the story I didn't tell you. So we'll come back on that later. Second point, big point. I feel like I'm lying to myself, or at least hiding things. This is generally speaking, but I will give you an example that is like the best way to describe what I'm feeling for you. So in summer 2022, I read an amazing book that changed my way of thinking about work and about my life. I remember I read it when I was at Amber's grandmother's house. We were about to play a card game. This is really precise, but I don't know why. But I remember like reading it on my phone and going through the pages and everything. And at the moment, Amber goes to me and said, "Hey, do you want to play a card game with us, with her cousins and things like that?" I was like, "Yeah, obviously." And so I put down my phone and went with them. And so we were about to play a card game. This book is titled The Millionaire Fastlane by M.G. DeMarco. It basically describes a way to become rich, like really, really rich, but not the way you think about it, and not the way most of people think about it. In this book, the author describes his vision of being rich, a vision where the money is not the goal, but the means to achieve that goal. Maybe tricky to understand, so let me repeat that. The money is not the goal, but the means to achieve that goal. For the author, being rich is being able to spend his time however he wants, to do whatever he wants, with whoever he wants. And you can only achieve that by becoming financially rich, so that with your money, you can then decide not to work at all because you have enough money in your bank account and do all of these things. Okay, you can like be with your parents 24/7 if you want, if you are rich, because you don't have to work a 9 to 5, you don't have to worry about getting money and paying the bills, things like that. Okay, so this was the first thing that really like blew my mind in this book, which is that being rich in life is more about your relationships and how you spend your time than finance. But there are a lot of things that are amazing in this book. I really, really, really recommend it. It's called The Millionaire Fastlane by M.G. DeMarco. But let's get back to the point. Since I read this book, I've wanted with my whole body and my whole soul to get financially rich. My goal, this is the first time I will say it out loud, publicly, kind of stressed, but this is a podcast, I have to do this. My goal is to have 50 million euros before I turn 30. Okay, so I have 10 years to make 15 million euros, because I'm 20 now. So yeah, this is my goal. And the problem I have is that in my family, being rich is not really something good. Okay, I heard my parents saying this all the time, that we should tax the rich. This is why it's their fault if there is so much unemployment, or all of these things. And so I have in my family and in my personal beliefs too this contradiction where on one hand it's bad to be rich, and on the other hand I want to be rich to have a great life. Okay, and so I never talk about this with my parents. I've never told them that I want to be rich. I never told them why. Nothing. This is another subject. Okay, I've never wanted to. Yeah, I always wanted to tell them, but I am too afraid of how they would react. And because it's my parent, this is important to me. And so I never talked about this with my parents, and I even kind of lied to them when we're talking about what I want to do in my life. I always say something like, "Yeah, I don't really know. I would like to try that, but I don't know. I would like to do that, but I don't know." Even if I really, really know what I want to do with my life. And so, yeah, this is what I'm talking about when I say that I'm lying to myself, or at least hiding things. It's because the more I'm saying this to my parents, the more it becomes my identity. Even if I really, really want to be rich, it's like I'm getting to a point where I have to act on the fact that I want to be rich, but if I do, I will have to tell my parents about it. And this is like kind of contradictory, and like this leads to a situation where I will probably disappoint them, or I'm afraid to disappoint them, and things like that. And so I'm lying, or at least hiding things to myself. Okay, this is what I meant when I wrote that. The third point out of 4 is I don't know how people will react and what they will think about me. Sorry. This is something I never thought I would ever say, because I have kind of this personality, this persona, my personal brand. Okay, this is my personal brand. This reputation, yeah, of being the chill guy that doesn't care about what people think of him and all that stuff. But that's not true. That's really not true. I don't care what people think about me for the things I don't care about. So it can be my clothes, the fact that people believe me or not, this kind of things like that. But for the things I really, really care about, like what I'm doing with my life, what's good or not, who I am, and what I do, I care a lot about this. So yeah, I do care about what people think about me, and sometimes it stops me from doing what I want. So this is probably a reason why I don't dance, probably why I don't drink alcohol, and things like that. That's another point for another time, which will be probably the second story. But yeah, I care about what people think about me, and probably too much, probably way too much, because it leads me to not to do the things I want. So that's why I never talked about my public channel, my YouTube channel. My friends just stumbled across it. Okay, I talk about this with like my girlfriend and my really, really best friend and all, but this is people who are like trust them 1,000%. So I'm not afraid of how they will react, because they are my friend and I know them. Okay, so I never talked about this, and for example, Stefan and Sasha, my two roommates, housemates, in Lannion where I study, they just like learned it because they heard me talking loudly in my room, and they were like, "What? you were calling someone, and I was like, no, I was recording a video. I was recording a video for YouTube, but don't talk about this. It wasn't like don't talk about this, but it was something. It was my thing, and I wasn't talking about this with my friends, and it wasn't something I was proud of, and I started doing this like early 2025, and I stopped during the months of February, something like that. My goal was to post a video every week. So yeah, sometimes it really stops me from doing the thing I want to do, even if this is something I really, really, really want to do, which means that I care most about what people think about me and react than what I want to do, which is not good. I feel like it's not good because I end up being sad or disappointed about myself with this. And so yeah, I don't know how people react, and I do care about this. And the fourth point is, I think my podcast is one of the best places I can train that like honesty and that openness about how I feel. And this is why I'm here now, being vulnerable, because I'm talking about some things that I'm not used to talk about, and talking to you about my life. Because in the third episode, it was the second story. Okay, so I wrote the outline about it and things like that. And when I finished the first story, when I was recording, I read the title of the second story. I was like, no, I don't talk about this. I won't talk about this. And I just like got scared about what you would say, what my parents would say if they listen to the podcast and things like that. So I just stopped and I talked about something else. I talked about the two currencies that we have in life, money and time, which is kind of related, but not the same thing. And so I planned, at the very beginning, I planned to talk about these two currencies. But at the end of the podcast, kind of a final note, like a share of my thoughts, it wasn't like a real story. So yeah, the second story I should have told you was titled, I watched a video about how to get rich. Let me tell you that story now. So 3 weeks ago, I watched a video called How to Get Rich. I'm this kind of person, basically. You know now why. So this is a video from Ali Abdal, which is a British YouTuber and entrepreneur and public personality. And this video is the thumbnail, to give you an idea, is like just him, and behind him was written the uncomfortable truth, okay, with a red underline, something like that. And so the video was not about all the things that you're used to when you watch How to Get Rich videos, because there are things like go trade cryptos, go start a business, go follow your passions, all this kind of bullshit. And in this video, it wasn't this at all. It was just a video like this one where he was talking to a camera. He was saying that to get rich, you have to be obsessed. You have to be obsessed over everything. Okay, you have to start business, obviously, because you can learn about this in the book I recommended you, The Millionaire First Lane. But yeah, you have to start business. You can't work for someone else, and you have to be obsessed about making money. So you have to do it like 16 hours a day, not 16, but like, you have to think about it always. You have to be really, really be obsessed about this. As much as someone who wants to win the gold medal in the Olympics has to be obsessed about his sport, his diet, his actions and everything. Okay, he's not going out because he has to train. He's not partying because he has to stop alcohol. All of this, and so it changed my view about how to get rich. And I always thought being obsessed was a plus. Okay, so you can see people like, if you know them, you know them, Iman Ghazi or Alex Omondi, things like that, people like that, that are public personalities that became rich and kind of documented it on videos or on podcasts. And they are really obsessed about this. And I always thought it was a plus, but it wasn't required. And this video made me realize that it was required, because if you want to get in the top 1% of the rich people in this world, which means like you have millions, which is not really common, you have to be as much obsessed as they are, okay? And you can't be the top 1% footballer if you're not obsessed about football. You have to eat well, you have to train a lot, you have to do a lot of things. Let me turn the lights on. Because, oh fuck. Okay. Because I'm in a small bubble in my workplace where I am right now, and the light turns off automatically. Sorry. So yeah, it's required to get to be obsessed if you want to be a top 1% footballer, and it's exactly the same with making money. Okay, making money is a sport, kind of. It's not just physical, but it's kind of a sport. And so right now I'm not obsessed about being rich. Okay, I have my work, I have my diet, I have my workouts, I have all of these things that are, in my opinion, as much important as being rich. Okay. And I think overall, in generally speaking about life, it is as much important as being rich or getting rich, but you can't do it all at once. Okay, I think you have to focus on one of these in order to get the others. So, for example, right now, if I really want to become rich, okay. So right now, if I want to have like the best house of my life and the best body of my life, in my, generally speaking, over my whole life, the best thing I can do is to get rich in the next 5-10 years. And then once I'm rich, I can fully focus about my health, about my workouts, because I will have time to do it, okay? But I will also have time to be with my parents and have great relationships, be married, have a great family, and like being rich becomes, once you're rich, you have like a tool, an amazing tool that gives you time to do anything else, anything you want. It's hard to do all of this at once at the same time, okay? And so right now I'm not obsessed, but I want to be rich. Which means that I need to become obsessed, really obsessed about this. And so one way of doing this, like the two ways you have to get financially rich, is that you have to sell something with low margins to a lot of people, or high margins to not a lot of people. Let me give you an example. The company Big, which sells the pen, okay, they are selling a pen with like 30 cents of margin, okay, but because they are selling it to millions of people, they are making millions, because 1 million times 1 is million is equal to a million. And on the other end, SpaceX, the company of Elon Musk, is selling their spaceships and all of that to the NASA, but they are selling it for like multiple millions and multiple figures to versus another. So they have only one client, but it's a client with a contract of like 50 or 100 millions. And so they become rich because they say 1 times 100 millions, okay? Which means 100 millions. So you have this kind of thing where you either have to sell it a lot with low margins, or to have really high margins and to sell it not a lot. You don't have to sell it a lot to become rich, okay? And so a way to do this is by having a personal brand, okay? So personal brand, what people say about you when you're not in the room. Either this gives you an impact on a lot of people. So for example, Squeezie, the French YouTuber, which has like 20 million subscribers, something like this. If tomorrow he's selling something at €1 to every subscriber he has, he will earn 20 million. Okay, and he has an impact on 20 million person. Okay, this is because of his personal brand. All right. On the other hand, if he starts selling a course on how to build a successful YouTube channel, he can put the course. He is an expert in this. He can make the price of the course at like 20,000 euros, and people will still buy it because they know he's an expert, and so they know he has like the knowledge to help you reach that goal. And if he puts it at €20,000 and he sells it 1,000 times, he will make 20 million. And so a personal brand gives you either a big impact over some people because they know you are an expert, or it can give you a small impact on a lot of people, and they give you the money, but not that much. But because you have like really a lot of people, you get money. You get a lot of money. This is because of your personal brand, and so that's why I want to start personal brand. We talked about this a bit later. I told you I tried, okay, at the beginning of 2025. I made like videos about my life and things like this, and I stopped during February or March because it was, my goal was to build like a personal brand of me building apps and websites and things like this. And when I was building this personal brand, it was taking so much time of my life that I wasn't building apps at all. So if my personal brand is about building apps, but building a personal brand makes me stop building apps, I just build a personal brand on some nothing, you know. So I stopped. Did I stop on purpose? I don't think so. I think I like just stopped because I like gave up, probably. Because of all of this and because it was hard, okay, basically. And so this time, I think the best way to do it is by doing it as a group and not alone. And so this time I sent a message I text some of my closest friends, 5 of them, and I was like, okay, I wanna be rich. You kind of know it because they are really close, and so they kind of have a feeling of me being like an entrepreneur and all of this, and they know it a bit. So I said, okay, I want to do it. I would like to do it with you. My best life would be to have a company with you and just my friends and just doing things with my friends and getting paid for this. This would be amazing. And they all said yes. I'm really grateful for them said yes. And yeah, I wanna do it. And this was like the subject of the story I should have told you this time. And it was kind of a call, okay? It was kind of like, when I thought about this for the third episode, it was kind of like, I tell the story and then I tell them, if you want to be part of this, send me a message, which is still available, okay? If you want to be part of this, you can send me a message saying that you want to walk with me over this. And yeah, that's it. I want to be a personal brand, I want to be rich, all of these things. Yeah, okay. This was the first story, big story. There are kind of two stories in this, because I also told you the story I didn't tell you this time. So yeah, let's say you had two stories, and now I will tell you the third story, which is kind of a lighter story. Okay. To give you an idea, the name of the story is I've been invited to a party, and so we'll talk about deep things at the end. The beginning is quite fun. So I've been invited to a party. As you may know, I follow a very special diet that prioritizes my energy level during the day, which means that I try to avoid like big meals, to avoid the big digestion and low level of energy that comes with it. That said, last Thursday I ate with my coworkers during lunch, and during this meal they told me to be at Surabi's place. Surabi is one of my coworkers. At Surabi's place on Friday, the next day at 7 p.m. And I told him, yeah, sure, because how they invite people. They told them to come at a specific time rather than asking them if they are available, if they want to come, etc. So anyway, they told me to be there at 7. The next day I was there at 7:15. I was a bit late. And so I didn't really know what we were doing there. Obviously we were partying, we were going to party, but I didn't know why. So I'm presented to new people, I met new people. We start talking and they are really lovely. We're having really interesting conversations. It's great. One of them is working, for example, as in a cybersecurity startup that works with the CIH where I'm working. And so we're talking about his work, how the startup works, what is their unique value proposition, all that stuff, that entrepreneur stuff. And then we talked about like Formula One, because they follow Formula One too. And so we were sharing the drivers we love the most, what we're thinking about Max Verstappen, and the last races, and all of this. But it was really great, like very, very, very good people. It was amazing. And yeah, I've been there for already 2 hours without realizing it. Okay, it was great. And then they asked me to get their age, okay? Because I told them I was 20, which is I was the youngest person in the room, and so they told me, okay, guess our age. And so I didn't do bad. I was like just 1-2 year close to the real age. They are between 22 and like 27 or 28, something like this. And so we talked about age and things like that, and we started talking about Tane, one of my coworkers, and they told me he was going to turn 27, and I told them, oh yeah, great, when is his birthday? And they all stopped and looked at me like, what did he say? And one of them answered, well, tomorrow. That's why we're here, you know that. And as I told you, I didn't know why I was there. So I learned it was a birthday party, 2 hours in the party, which is the first funny point of the story. And then the party kept going. The other invitees arrived. I'm meeting like around 5 to 6 new people at the end. So we're having a lot of fun. As I told you, I was the youngest person at the party, which is a funny shit, because like at a certain point, the alcohol takes effect, and they obviously start to give you advice about your life, about my life. So some of them tell me not to worry about the future, everything will just unfold by itself, and you should just keep going. Others told me that I should use this time at Cardiff to try new things, just because this is like a small period in my life. Okay, so I will get my routine back when it will be over. So like I should enjoy this as much. So like really deep and really like selfless advice that they gave me. And one of them, which is sober by the way, it's an important point, tells me that starting drinking alcohol has been one of the best decisions she made. And obviously, as she's sober and I'm not drinking alcohol, I wanted to understand why. Okay, I started to be curious, and so she told me that it helped her getting out of her own bubble and deepens her relationships with her friends, which I totally understand, in fact. But then I started thinking about my thoughts on drinking alcohol or not, and this is a deeper point. This is a deeper point of the story. So I'm not drinking alcohol for various reasons, but the two most important ones are that I don't like losing control of myself. Okay, I can lose control of a situation or things like that. Okay, but the idea of losing control over my own thoughts, ideas, and actions, even if you feel like you have them, the thing, okay, that you feel like when you're numb. I don't like it. I don't like it at all. Whereas, okay, alright. So this is the first reason. I don't like losing control, and it's kind of linked with the second reason, which is way more personal. I always saw my parents drinking, and objectively they probably have a problem with alcohol. But like as far as I can remember, they always drank, not like at every hour of the day, okay, but like overall. And so I saw them doing or saying things mostly because of alcohol and the fact that you don't think about what you're doing when you're under alcohol effects. You just react to what's happening. And so yeah, they did things or they said things that I don't want to say or do myself, right? I don't want to do this in front of my kids. I don't want to say this to my boyfriend. Like, even if at the really moment, at the really second something happened, I think about this, and I think this is what I like believe. I wanna have like this second thought and third thought about what I was thinking that what are the effects of saying it like this, and like I don't want to lose my thinking and my intelligence, if I can say that, in front of people. And when I say intelligence, I'm like emotional intelligence, because there are things that you should say, but not in this situation or not this way, and this is your overall emotional intelligence. I don't want to lose all of this, and so yeah, I don't want all of this. Okay. But then I also thought about the reasons I could be drinking alcohol. Okay, so we talked already about one of them. I care about what other people think and say about me, and probably too much, because it stopped me from doing the things I want to do. And so drinking alcohol, I would repeatedly get into situations where I will do things no matter what people think or say about me. which would lead me to like care less about them and realize that they don't really think about you and things like that. Okay. So this is the first point. The second point is that I would also probably enjoy more parties I'm at. Not that I don't enjoy them, but because I enjoy going to a party because I'm with my friends and we're having a good time. But it will probably be the same in the morning or the afternoon. Okay, it doesn't matter the fact that we're in the evening. Okay, and with or without alcohol too. Like if we weren't having alcohol, it would be exactly the same. So it's not really the fact that it's a party that makes it enjoyable. Okay, it's the fact that I'm with my friend. It's better to understand it that way. So with alcohol, I will probably like enjoy more the parties for themselves. The fact that we are at someone's house, that we are drinking together, that we are having fun in a relaxed environment, something like that. So yeah, this was the second point. These are like the two biggest points I feel for drinking alcohol. I don't know if there are any health good things for alcohol in like small dose. Okay, probably a little bit. Even if we all know that alcohol in like large dosage on a repeated use case is not good at all. But yeah, I don't know if there are other points, but they are the biggest ones I could think about this in my life right now. And so yeah, here I am, like weighing the pros and cons of drinking alcohol. I will probably at a certain point of my life try alcohol because I can die without knowing how it feels to be numb, like to have 3 grams of alcohol in your blood. Like I have to be with the right people for the right occasion, and it must stay within very particular and strict conditions because I have a very addictive personality. Okay, it may be about like alcohols and things like that. Sugar and things like that. Okay, I'm very addictive like this, and so if I start drinking alcohol, I must be cautious and really aware about everything, because if I'm not, it might lead to something that I really don't want, which is alcoholism, to be honest. And yeah. I probably won't start drinking alcohol a lot, like regularly, but I will in certain occasions, in certain things like that, I think. And yeah, this was the second story. Tell you about the party. The party, we were about like, it was around 1 or 2 a.m. when this kind of advice arrived, and we were playing games, things where you have like 2 teams. One of the team choose a movie, okay, and then one person of the other team get to know the movie and then try to make it guess just through the actions to his team. Okay, this game. It's like really, really interesting, and it's like only with movies, for example, here. And I had to make my team guess Emily in Paris. Okay, because we talked about this, and because I'm French, in an English environment. So they told me to guess Emily in Paris, to make them guess Emily in Paris, and so the game was like. You can't say how many words there is in the titles with your hand, alright? So it was 3, and then you have this thing where here it's really like recent stuff. Here it's like starting to be old, and here it's like old at the really old. And so you're like, okay, I have to guess Millie Paris Kids. And you start like trying to make it get by your actions. And one of the things, the only things I did to make it guess, I just walked, like I catwalked in the room, and someone guessed it was about Emily in Paris, which is like really, really a good thing because I was a bad actor. But yeah, the guest Emily in Paris. So we did this at the end of the party, like around 2 or something like this. We started playing undercover, so the game where you have like civilians, undercovers, and Mr. Whites, Mr. White, and I made them discover the game, and they really loved it. We did some powers. At one point I was Mr. White. I lost first round. Okay, to give you an idea, I was fifth. The first one said cold. The second one said rain. The third one, I don't remember. The fourth one said hot. So like the hints I had was like cold, rain, hot. All right. I said period, like a period, a time period. Okay. And they understood a time period of the year. But like I was like, yeah, something like this, okay. Because I had no fucking clue. They finished the round. At the end of the round, they just like kicked me out. And I was like, okay, maybe it's like season, some weather, something like this. It was like shower and bath. Okay, these were the two things, the two words. Which makes sense. Okay, you can have cold shower, hot showers. It feels like kind of rain. Okay, it makes sense, but it was very hard. So yeah, it was great. It was a great party. It ended at 4 this morning, which is around the time where I wake up, which was kind of a joke. When I left, I told them, well, it's time for me to wake up, so I think I will go to sleep because it's getting late. And yeah, it was a great time. So yeah, this was the 3 stories of my week, 2 stories of my week, and one from 3 weeks ago. I hope you enjoyed watching it, if you're watching the video, or listening to it if you're on Spotify and something like that. Keep telling me if me speaking in English is alright for you, okay? Because it may not be, so you can tell me whatever happens. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed it. See you next week for the next episode. And so yeah, as I told you, this podcast will probably tend to be something where I just like give my thoughts about what happened during the week, more than just giving stories, because I try to have stories where like, there is a static point and then something happened and then I learn from that. Okay, I try to have these kind of things, but I don't know, it will probably turns out to be more just what I wrote in my diary. What else did I wrote? Nothing interesting. Yeah, probably yes, this is interesting. This podcast is about my life in Cardiff, obviously. And so I said, after my trip in Cardiff, I will probably keep going this podcast, make it keep going. But how should I name it? Okay. So I talked with ChatGPT. Okay, it started to be too much human about me. I started thinking it's starting to be too much human. But yeah, I talked with ChatGPT, and after some back and forth, he gave me the idea of becoming me or becoming myself, and I love this idea because it embraces the fact that you're really never yourself. You're just trying to be yourself. Even more afterwards we talk about. And so this podcast will help me become more me, which is what I want to have, what I want to do, what I want to be. And so there's this, and there is also Unscripted, which is the name I have actually. But Unscripted is not true, because if I start talking about things like this or something like that. It is scripted, but before the episode exists, it's not scripted. Like it gets scripted with my life, so I don't know. Yeah. 50 minutes. I thought it would be a shorter version of this episode, but it's the longest, I think. So yeah. Thank you very much for your time. I hope you enjoyed the podcast. I hope to see you soon, next week, probably, on the 18th of May, where we'll have other stories and adventures to tell you. Thank you very much for your time. See you next time.